He said, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Yeah.
So if I'm used to doing the hard things just for the sake of doing it, I'll still wake up early, go for a run. It's still dark outside. Nobody's up. By the time I get back, I shower, I get dressed, and I'm on my way to work. I'm 2 steps ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
Nobody else did that in the morning. If I'm going to the gym in the morning, I'm doing these hard things. If another hard situation presents itself, man, I got it. It's just another hard thing. I've been doing these things, and by being disciplined enough to put yourself through the hard times, what's another obstacle? What's another obstacle? It's just something else to overcome.
What? Yes, check it out. Check it out. What's up, everybody? It's More Than Black or White. We got your hosts, Brian and Paul, and we got a special guest, our boy Francis, chilling, brother, mother.
Brother Paul.
Woo, child.
Can we curse on this thing? I gotta be sure.
Huh?
No cursing, right? Keep it
No,
clean.
we curse.
I can curse a little bit, yeah.
We curse, man.
All right,
Yo,
I gotta make sure. I gotta know these things.
Motherfucker. Okay.
Brother Paul.
Yo, so
Brian.
listen, man.
Brian.
Dude, I'm giddy right now, bro. I'm giddy right now. What? Why's that, Paul? I'm glad you asked. Yo, because man, us working together at a fitness facility, a wellness facility, man, our relationship, I think, really blossomed because we got to really know each other, man. We got to be honest and transparent with each other on various aspects of life. And we've always, one of the things why this conversation has come together, and especially in relation to what we're going to talk about, which I'll reveal shortly, is we've always had, between the three of us, we've always had this ability, and I would include Jeff and John in this as well. Yeah. We've always had the ability to be authentic in sharing our perspectives on different things. And what I found by being friends with these two is that they always, every time we have a conversation, I find myself expanded after we have those times. So what we're going to talk about today is mental health. Okay. What's the reason? Well, I'm glad you asked. Our boy Francis here got into the mental health space, and we're going to have him explain this in a moment. And from what Brian and I have spoken about with various things, whether it's creating new patterns, morning routines, the mental is a part of it. So we figured, you know what? Let's have a conversation about this on wax. All right. So
wax.
Yes, on wax, man. So people could rewind, or they could cut it up, chop it up, do whatever they want to do, man. Put it in a mixtape, whatever. All right. So welcome to those that are joining us for the first time. Well, thank you for joining us. This is the More Than Black or White Health podcast, and we are here to provide you with gems and tools to help you up level and be your best and highest self with resources that most people never talk about. So bless up to you, Frank. Welcome. I call him Frank, but we're gonna say Francis. Welcome, bruv.
How you doing? Yes. Listen, man. I can't complain, brother. I'm blessed.
Well, so it is.
Standing on my 2 legs, breathing, healthy family.
Bless
on the podcast with Paul and Brian.
Yeah. Yes. So Frank.
Complain, bro. Bless, man.
Bless up, bro. Frank, talk to us, man. Introduce yourself to the people. And if you can introduce yourself, tell us about your background, what you do now, and, man, what drives you, fuels you, bro?
Okay. Now, as of now, working in inpatient psych at a hospital. What kind of segued me into that was working at a juvenile residential treatment facility for about 5 years. And needless to say, you're working with 3 different kind of kids there. You got the EMs, which is the emotional management. Those are the kids who are aggressive. Let's say they're in there, whether it be for armed robbery, violence, stealing, gang activity. Those are the EM. Then you have RTR, which is the road to recovery. Those are the kids who were exposed to drugs very early. They went from 12 to 19. Even some kids who couldn't find placement after 19, they're in there till they're 20, 21. but you had 12 to about 19 standard. You had the RTRs, which were the kids that are exposed to drugs. Then you had the SOs. They were the sex offenders, kids who were in there for sexually related crimes, activities, whatever you may call it, behavior. So dealing with them is a juvenile campus, but you can already see you're dealing with psych. You're dealing with the mental. And before that, going to school, what got me into really understanding the mental is really boxing. Working with you guys at the gym, you guys know my background in boxing. But what really got me into the mental was that boxing is a small percent of it is physical, a very small percent. The rest of it is mental. It really is a test of will. When you're in there with another man, you're testing your willpower versus his willpower. How much you can take, how much you can give, how much he can take, how much he can give. So a lot of that is fortified in your own mental state. If you walk into a fight mentally prepared to not go down, you're going to take a few punches that other people can't. And it all depends on your state of mind. So fighting taught me that the mind is far more powerful than the body can ever be. You can train all day long. You still, you can't handle yourself. It's all a show. It's all a facade. And you got people, and I learned that at the juvenile campus, you got kids who are probably 13 years old. They could probably give it to a grown man because of where their mind is at. Right. So I learned the power of the mind. And now, the same way the physical body can be sick, the mind can be sick. I think the body gets sick, whether it be through mistreatment or trauma.
All right, so hold on, wait. We're gonna get there. We're gonna get there. All right.
Get there.
Yeah, we're gonna get there. So what I'm hearing is
background. Overall, my background. That's how I got into, I guess, a passion for mental health and kind of learning how to grow. And we can go into the spiritual side even after that, but that's later. That's my introduction. That's where I stand as far as mental health is concerned.
Bless up, but hold up, bro. Yo, Francis, what fuels you, bro? Come on, man. What fuels you, bro? You can't. Come on. We love the background, but yo, come on. You on with me and B? Come on, son.
What fuels me? My son was a big part. Was a big piece. Having my son was a big piece because I knew once he would be of age, 12, 13 years old, he would have an opinion of his father. And now what do I want his opinion of his father to be? So whatever I want his opinion to be, that's what I have to become. So not only what fuels me is to be an example, not only for him, but everybody's watching. Once you walk into a room, everybody's watching. So what kind of example are you going to be? Not only for the people who are close to you, but just for a stranger on the street, who you can turn their life around, even just with a few words. So what drives me, what fuels me is being an example, because that's all I'm going to be remembered for anyway. What kind of example I was. That's what fuels me, man.
Thank you for that. Welcome. Now you're officially in the container, right?
I'm in it, man.
You disclose your background and what fuels you. So welcome.
Now, you know what?
What's up?
I want to hear you two. What fuels you guys?
Oh.
What fuels you guys?
Hit him, man. Hit him, babe.
I want to hear.
I'm a big learner. I love learning new things, and that's one of the things that, like, when I first met you, I think within the first 3 minutes of our conversation, we were talking about psychedelics, I think.
Doesn't surprise me.
I think that conversation lasted like 2 hours, and we were close after that, and like I just felt a good connection with you. And I one of the things I admire about you is you have a good presence to you. Not only are you like a fucking monster, like you gotta be like what 6'3", like 240, like just jacked out of your mind. But you have a good presence with you speak with your chest, and you're very intelligent the way you speak. You're very articulate the way you speak, and I've learned a lot from you. You say things in certain ways that it inspires me to learn more. So I always appreciate that, and that's what kind of like fuels me, like learning from other people and like the psychology of the mind. You say things in a past conversation, I'm like, holy shit, never looked at it like that. And I go dive into it a little deeper. Like you and Paul got me on the hermetics. That's a whole nother conversation. But I was like, all right, just kind of like diving into that. And I learned a great deal of that through you, and I apply it to my life. Another thing that fuels me, I love traveling. You know, I'm off to Africa next week for 2 weeks. I mean, I want to see the world. I like diving into cultures that are outside of my, I wouldn't say comfort zone, just things I'm not used to. I like immersing myself with all sorts of people. Again, big learner, all about. Now I'm married now, cha-ching, married, and have a 2-year-old stepson. And just like you, like I want to be a great role model for him. I want him, when he gets older, he knows that I'll always have his back, and knowing that like I can, hopefully all the stuff that I'm learning in my life, I can pass that down to him, and he can be the best version of himself. If I have a little bit to do with that, that's what fuels me.
That's good. That's what's up. Brian, man, I'm honored, man, to say that you learned from me, bro, because I feel like that's how I feel about you too.
It's a reciprocal relationship.
Yeah, it really is, man. I'm telling you, I sense that every time we all hang out. I'm like, this is an up leveling, man. Because one of the things, Brian, you said you're a learner, and I think all of us are that, and I also think we like to share. That's my thing that fuels me. I love it. I love to educate. I love to teach. I'm a big fan of finding what the base level is and then building from there. Yeah. Like there's this term of like, I'm gonna meeting people where they are. Because I've had a tendency in the past to be like, oh, well, I pontificate on the pontification of the and like some bull crap, man. So I like talk just to like show how much I know, but now it's more of just really making sure everyone has a baseline understanding and teaching something that lights them up and gets people to see and perceive the world in a different way. I freaking dig that. Like being able to teach someone something and see the shift in their eyes and in their whole energy. It's like, that's beautiful, man. I dig that. Fuels me. I'm so people can make new mistakes. I love that, man. I love that.
You hit a great point, man. And it's meeting people where they're at.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's something that's missing in the healthcare system. Because
tell me more about that. Like, how you mean?
You have these medical professionals, doctors, psychiatrists, whatever. I'm not throwing no shade at all, but
that's okay. We do it here all the time. So
they don't know how to speak to. They can't identify with their own humanity. You don't know how to speak to this individual who's struggling. You don't know how to communicate with him so he gets it. You're talking to him. You're not even talking to him like they call it layman's terms. You're not speaking to him so it's digestible. But if you come there and you're relatable, you're not coming in there with this white jacket. Sir, you're diagnosed with this. Yeah. We're going to give you this medication. Speak to them. A lot of those people, they go in there and they come out and nothing happened. Nothing changed. Nobody spoke to them. Nobody sat down and spoke with what happened.
They talk. Yeah, they talk at them, not to them.
Exactly.
And it was a big thing I read about. Maybe 10 years ago. They were trying to switch up the way they were working with patients, and doctors working with patients. The doctors would come in there and they'd have zero bedside manner. Just be very analytical. And when people were trying to heal or people were trying to recover, they need more loving, more compassion. They need more empathy. So they're realizing a lot of the way the doctors are handling it, people were getting, I wouldn't say worse, but they weren't healing as well as when they were going home and they were healing better. So a lot of the curriculum from the doctors now, they take courses on how to be more empathetic towards people as part as the curriculum as to being doctors. I'm not saying all universities do this, but they're slowly catching on that your bedside manners have a direct correlation with the healing process of your patient.
Oh man!
If I can touch on anything, man, that's energy and frequency.
Yes. Yeah.
That's big. So there's three components really to when it comes to addressing mental health, and we're diving into each one of these right now. And I want us to segment these because what I was hearing is that there's this cognitive component to mental health, addressing mental health, right? And how we're looking at this is beyond like labeling mental health as right or wrong. We're just looking at this as a concept. So we're looking at this cognitive piece. We're even just like listening, hearing. There's the body piece, the physical component, Frank, before you mentioned stress. And then I just heard you both talk to that spiritual side, the soul side of it, right? Yeah. So I want us to dive into the cognitive piece first, because B, this is going along the lines. What I'm hearing is when we're talking about the doctors and people going in and saying, hey, I got this, and doctors like, okay, well, you got the take this. Where it's like I hear the mental health is the same thing. So talk to me about how, from your two perspective, B, from your perspective of like working with clients and getting the mind shift, and then Frank, from what you're seeing in your profession as inpatient and also some of the conversations we had, curious to know like how the cognitive or the mind piece of dealing with mental health, what you all both think about that. So Frank, can we go with you first, and then Brian, I want to hear your thoughts on it.
Sure. Now, the cognitive piece, that would kind of be like the state of mind, more or less, yeah?
Yeah. And how we approach mental health from like a mind perspective, like this cognitive, like technical.
I would say the same way, if somebody kind of comes in with physical pain or physical ailments, you kind of have to see where there was a correlation. What could have caused this? If I have back pain, all right, you have to assess whether they've been exercising. Are you sitting a lot? Are you stretching? What's your form of activity like? Have you have any history of injuries? Has there been any form of trauma that has happened to this area or region which is causing this?
Yeah.
So when somebody comes in with a cognitive piece, you kind of have to get a background. But the thing is, it's almost as if they're treating the symptoms, not the cause. So you kind of have to dig and understand, I guess, whether the person may be in a bad relationship and they're going through it day after day. That's causing them now to kind of almost quit. That's the cognitive piece, where their mind state is on the day-to-day basis. So are they stressed through their work environment? Are they not able to get work? Are they homeless? Yeah. Was there a trauma that happened in their past? Did they lose a family member, a loved one? All of these things, once they're identified, that's when the treatment actually starts. Once you identify what actually happened and what the root cause is. A lot of people are going through stressors every day, and everybody responds to it differently. So that's so what is your state of mind on the day-to-day basis? Yeah. And if it's a stressful state, it's going to eventually cause an issue. Or if there was a major hit, at one point in time, maybe somebody lost their mother at a young age, that's something that they may bear for years. And then sooner or later, there's just a crash. Yeah. And you finally find out, hey, man, what happened? Let's talk about your history. Yeah, well, I lost my mother at 13. That's something we got to talk about, man.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
That you got to talk about how that's affected you, because it sets them on a different course. That's the cognitive piece, to understand to me, the state of mind on the day-to-day.
So the mind, so people addressing the mental health, what I'm hearing is getting an understanding of where their mind is, as far as like I'm hearing in what you're saying, like the stories and like things that have happened, like how that's processing in the mind. So, okay, thank you. Okay, I'm with you on that, man. I'm with you on that for sure. Brian, what about for you, bud?
I mean, basically, I'm just going to piggyback off what Francis said. Like, I believe, like you just said, it's not about the stress; it's how you perceive the stress. It's like when I growing up, I had a lot of like root chakra issues that correlated it into a lot of symptoms. Like I wouldn't say I had diseases, but I had like a lot of symptoms, like ailments in my root chakra area. Because like when my dad passed when I was like 19 or 20, it was like right before I had my 20th birthday, I had a lot of resentment towards him. Then as I got older and I got more spiritual and I understood more about what life is and death and what death actually is, it was almost like it just like kind of washed it away, and I recovered a lot. I recovered very quickly once I understood that and how it worked. But I believe, all your definitely, I mean, I think we're all in agreement where your mental, emotional, it'll bring out your physical ailments eventually. Where you think Paul, we just did a whole lecture on the chakras.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, people that are having like, arthritis in their, or having back pain or hip pain or knee pain or any kind of like blood issues going on, that's all like root chakra. For me, that's telling me that you are not able to handle certain stresses, or you're holding on to certain stresses that have to do with safety, security. So instead of you're not comfortable in your own skin almost. You're not letting go. You're holding on to all this negative energy, and it's coming out in these symptoms. But we go to a medical doctor and they put you on this drug, and might put a Band-Aid over it, but it leads into another issue later on.
That's right.
But when you start understanding the emotional aspect and why you had these, and you start understanding chakras, like we talked about, it's so much easier to kind of fix yourself.
Yeah.
Or go to somebody that has the tools to do that, will help you.
Yeah, dude, man. So you're hitting on it, and it's like what I'm hearing you when what you're saying is, it's like being able to really connect the dots from what you're hearing them say and what could be going into like what's happening with them physically. So I want to transition into the physical point, because I think the chakras are important, and also the stressors. One of the things, though, from a mental perspective, I think it's important to recognize in addressing mental health is the words that the person is speaking to themselves. People talk about depression and anxiety, and whenever I'm working with men, or working with anyone, even just like in regular conversation, if people are open to feedback, and I'm inviting them to reframe, I notice by even having them reframe a phrase that they commonly say to themselves, they begin to change. So their words and their environments coming from, things that have happened to them over a lifetime, which will impact the body, which we'll discuss shortly. Those things that they're creating a story, and they're creating like what some will call a mantra, this phrase, this saying that begins to get absorbed in their cells. Like, think about this, like our brain is taking in so many different things. And when there's a failure to process that, it can show up in other ways, and vice versa. Like if there's a body trauma, like what you guys were saying before, all of a sudden the brain, the nerves are like, geek, 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 geek. What happened there? Okay, it's an intense snapshot of everything around that. So now if something happens, like say I got punched in the face, my whole essence is taken, my senses are taking everything. Now, if the slightest thing happens that was similar to that space, now my body's going to think it's there again. It's crazy. Yeah.
They say that certain emotions are actually linked with certain organs.
Yes. Let's talk about it. Body time, baby.
They said that like let's say anger is connected to the liver. So if somebody has a lot of resentment and a lot of anger within their lives, it's almost, let's say, like the chakras. It's like energy flowing. Energy is supposed to flow all through the body. But if there's a certain emotion or a certain baggage, it's going to hinder that flow. So the emotion will prevent, let's say, the proper energy flow through the liver. A certain emotion will prevent that energy flow through the kidneys, through the pancreas. So wherever certain energy or emotion is lingering, energy cannot flow through as it should. So that area is now going to start to be affected because the proper energy ain't getting through. Whether it be even, people who are going on the day-to-day stress, they say you're releasing, epinephrine. You're releasing a small amount of epinephrine through your system every single day. Eventually, that's going to change how your homeostasis. You're never at homeostasis. Homeostasis is where healing takes place. That's when the body's at rest. People who are constantly under stress, constantly releasing, epinephrine into your system. Your body's never at balance.
And epinephrine again, just for people that are like, what is this he's talking?
Adrenaline. Yeah, adrenaline.
That's your adrenaline.
I think when you go into England, across the pond, they call everything norepinephrine or epinephrine, but here it's like adrenaline.
Yeah, but it's the fight or flight response.
Yeah.
So if somebody is always in fight or flight, and they're constantly secreting this hormone throughout their body, you're never at peace. Your energy is never able to flow. You're never able to breathe.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's past a certain point, it's going to be taxing. And then illness is known. They say stress is the silent killer. Your body's never able to recover. You're never able to sleep right. You're not eating the way you should. It transitions into so many bad habits. So Brian,
before you go, I'm just curious, Frank, what you're saying, man. Dang. So when you're talking about that like stagnant energy, like how much does lack of movement play in someone's mental health? Like when we talk about, especially organ, because when you to get specific, you talk about energy, and I think or emotion, and I think about emotion as energy and motion. And a lot of times, what I've experienced from people that have gone through anxiety or depression, they have a tendency to usually be still, like, I'm gonna be in the house. I'm speaking for myself, by the way. Whenever I've been in that state, I'm like, yo, I'm not going out. I'm gonna sit here and make some knuckle children. Or I'm gonna sit I don't know. Like I'm just gonna be still and like stagnant. Like, ugh. So what's your take on movement in relation to mental health?
Brian, you go first. You want to go first, Brian?
Yeah, man. Like I think, movement. Think as you're like you have two different kind of, you have your analogy would be like movement would be like a river. Mm-hmm. Being stagnant with your thoughts is like a swamp. If you ever been out in a swamp, like look at the creatures that live out there. Look at the environment out there. It's very hard to have. I mean, you put that into into our mental terms. It's very hard to have this free flowing, vibrant energy if you're stagnant. You can't. It's impossible. It's impossible. Yeah.
And there was another colleague of ours from Lifetime. I'm gonna shout out Ariani.
Mm-hmm.
I remember she was speaking about exercise, and she said you have to find what moves you. Everybody's different.
Yeah.
Everybody. I'm gonna quote her on that. These ain't my words. Ariani's words. Find what moves you. So, different forms and patterns of exercise release different emotions.
Yes.
Sometimes I want to hit the heavy bag. Sometimes I want to get under some weight. Sometimes I want to do push-ups. Sometimes I need to go and run. Yeah. Sometimes for some other people, it would be yoga. They want something more passive to kind of relieve stress. Some people need something more aggressive. So the style of movement or the style of exercise that you begin to practice will release a particular energy. And you're going to be gravitated towards one or the other depending on what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
Everybody isn't for just go in the gym, lift these weights, do this. No, some people want something more passive because that relates to what they need to, the energy that they need to pass or the emotions that they need to express. So it depends on what they're feeling, what they need to express to identify with the form of exercise and the form of movement they need to associate with.
Can I piggyback off that real quick?
Yeah, man. Get that wisdom.
Kind of going back to what Francis was saying, like, your every emotion is correlated to an organ, right? So you got, for the listeners out there, we talk about your liver has a direct correlation to anger, your lungs have a direct correlation to like sadness and grief, kidneys, fear, heart, like joy, happiness, spleen, worry. So like when I do like exercise programs, like it's important. Like a lot of people like to do the machines and like to like just keep things easy, because, instead of it's like machine. I mean, I guess they have their time and place for everyone, but there's a lot of things that doing something functional, like doing a squat. First of all, I tell people, listen, you squat hundreds of times a day, whether you realize it, up and down stairs, in and out of your car, up and off the toilet, up and off the couch, all these things, you're doing a version of a squat. So when are you ever on your back at a 45-degree angle pushing a sled up and down? It just doesn't happen. So it has no correlation to your everyday life. And another thing that people don't realize on a physiological level, like when you squat and you're going up and down with your body weight, you're creating this pumping mechanism, which fuels all these organs I just mentioned. and it's creating more circulation, more blood flow, more chi throughout the body than just sitting on a piece of equipment that's, bolted into the ground and working 4 or 5 muscles.
Yeah.
It has no, so it's also like Francis was saying, it's the type of workout. All exercises are definitely not the same. I mean, we know this as professionals, but some novice people out there, they just come in, they do machine work, and they never get where they need to get.
Right. It's interesting as you say this, because I know working with people, and you all know I like to usually work with the most damaged. So so I've noticed that like helping people to connect back with their body is something that I recognize helps them connect with their mind. When I failed to truly understand this when I first started training in my early 20s. And when I started, was training on the side, when I was full time and sitting down all day, and then feeling the experience of like getting up, squatting. At that time, I was doing like hang cleans and stuff like this. But I recognized, like, man, that was helping me to move through some sludginess. Then when I would work with people that would have like lower back issues, spinal issues, and they were so resistant to use their body. And I noticed that working with those people over the years, that once they started to connect more with their physical form and moving, squatting, pressing, and I'm not talking about bench press, I'm talking about just a push-up, pull-up, squats, lunges, planks.
Fundamentals.
The fundamentals of movement, they started to recognize that their flow of energy and also their mental flow. Mihai Csikszentmihalyi said this, and I think there's also a guy, something Rattay, who talked about for kids, even the movement helps to develop their mind. We lose that as we get older because we get stuck in like, I'm going to be behind a desk. Mm-hmm. That's why I really appreciate what you're saying about the squats, B, and even Frank. I would notice, like, I'm gonna give my flowers to my boys right here. I'm a watcher. I love watching people. So one of the beautiful things about working at Lifetime, where we worked, bless up to Lifetime, was I think they personally select the best trainers. So watching them was masterful, because I would watch Brian with different populations, and you were never doing the same thing. You would use some of the same tools, but like my experience of watching you was that you configured a movement to them and you helped them to get out of their space. There's one of the clients that I'm speaking of specifically that I've trained for you, like while you were away, that I see how you train her and I see like the impact. Frank, watching you when you're working with people, I would notice that like you're very intent on helping them develop their mind. So whether it's in boxing, whether you're working with kids or women, like whoever it was, like the men coming in and talking to you about boxing, and then you helping them to reach another level of themselves. I see that in both of you. And I see that's such a major piece in mental health, because right now our nation, like obesity is an epidemic.
It is.
And it makes it, to me, it's all congruent with the fact that like depression and anxiety is going through the roof.
They're hand in hand, bro. They're hand in hand. And here's a big piece of connecting the physical to the mental. Mm-hmm. And I can say it from a physical, even from an academic standpoint. Mm-hmm. When I won my first fight I had boxing, I knew I won before the fight even started. The day before the fight altogether. Yeah. And it was my last day of training, and it was raining outside. Mm-hmm. I knew I had to run. It was my last day of training. I had to run. It was a night run. I put my sweatpants on, put my hoodie on, and I did my miles in the rain. While I'm running, right there, I knew, okay, I'm winning, because there's no way that this guy is out there right now running in the rain. There's no way this guy has been doing the training I've been doing the 2-a-days, doing all of that. There's no way he's been doing it. So the fight is mine. Yeah. And before my first loss, same thing. I sat there, damn, how long I've been training, how I'm feeling. Am I even mentally, you'll be defeated first. And the same thing with academics. You can take a final exam. They put that paper in front of you. You know whether you're going to fail.
Yeah.
What are you gonna pass?
Yeah.
You know, if you was out partying, drinking, doing whatever, and you looking at this test like, man,
might as well be written in Mandarin.
Right. You're like, what the heck is this?
I've been there a lot.
Did we study this? Yo, I've been there. Me too, B. I've been there, bro. I'll be like, shit.
We all
been
my
test in
like,
English?
Man, like, man, this professor is on some bull.
Yeah.
But we know if we've been busting our ass, studying hard, pulling all-nighters, study groups, office hours, all of that to secure that. Yeah. So they're certainly correlated. So now people who are, let's say, so your daily habits can reassure yourself come the time for trial and tribulation. How you've been living consistently, now come time for a tough time where depression may hit, the loss of a loved one, the loss of a job, you just got fired, or, you know, your car broke down. Now you have no means to get around. Those small things, if somebody mentally is in a good space, a good headspace, they take care of themselves, they're always on point with the things that they need to do, whether it be paying bills, you know, making sure their savings are in order, doing all the things right. Yeah. Come time for the trial and tribulation, they know how to adjust.
Wow. Yeah. So the thing that's coming up as I'm hearing as we're talking here is doing the hard things to fortify the mind.
Yes.
Being consistent with daily habits.
All right. So let's talk about that, because I think it can be very easy. I think distraction and I'm speaking for myself again, distraction can get me off of my consistency. And I noticed that when I fail to be consistent, a whole bunch of things can go on in my mind. My mind can go awry and go like all the different places. The thing I recognize too is that when I continue to do the hard things, or I'll say the challenging things, it makes me stronger mentally to address those negative thoughts that come up in my mind, the anxious thoughts that come up in my mind, the angry thoughts that come up in my mind. So I'm curious for you guys, how important is doing those challenging things in relation to mental health, like depression, anxiety? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, just kind of piggyback on what Francis said. Like, man, like, sorry to cut you off, but it was like when Francis was saying, like, hey, when he was out there running in that morning, or at night in the rain, and he knew there was no way in hell that person was doing it, he already had the advantage.
Yes.
One of my things was, you know, and we've all talked. I've shared this with you guys in the past. Is like, I wake up 3 to 4 hours before my first client every morning, and I get shit done for my other business, and that motivates me. When my alarm goes off, sometimes 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning, whatever it be, that motivates me, because I know nobody in my work business, in my field of doing that particular niche that I'm in, is waking up early to do it. And I know I have them beat, and I have the competitive advantage over them. And then, you know, shit always happens, but it's a funny thing. Like, I work on meditation. I work on, you know, I'm really big into Neville Goddard right now. I'm reading the book on visualization and imagination. And I do that, my meditation every morning. And like, I know stuff is going to come up, but I know through my visualization, it'll all work itself out. There's never been a problem in my life that has never not worked out. You got to kind of trust the process, keep going, keep doing what you're doing, and set these morning routines, and know that 99.9% of the population isn't waking up early, or isn't staying up late, or isn't taking time out to improve their craft. They only do it when it's convenient for them. They don't do it when they don't want to do it. You know, it's easy to do something when you're motivated, but once you get into that, you start building callus on the brain. You start getting tougher. You realize that, like, hey, when shit hits the fan, it's like, all right, I got this. You know, like it'll all work itself out. And I'm gonna, I give myself about a 10-second pity party where I'm cursing or I'm like pissed off. Then I'm like, all right, you know, stop enough with the baby stuff. Stop blaming other people. Stop playing the victim role. Let's get into it. Let's figure out solutions. Let's go. So
it's discipline. Discipline is big, because I'm a My brother told me this. I mean, I don't know where he got it from, but I'll have to shout him out, Big Brother Phil.
Mm-hmm.
He said, how you do anything is how you do everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So if I'm used to doing the hard things just for the sake of doing it, you know, I'll still wake up early, you know, go for a run. It's still dark outside. Nobody's up. By the time I get back, I shower, I get dressed, and I'm on my way to work. I'm 2 steps ahead of everybody else.
Yeah.
Nobody else did that in the morning. If I'm going to the gym in the morning, I'm doing these hard things. If another hard situation presents itself, man, I got it. It's just another hard thing. I've been doing these things, and by being disciplined enough to put yourself through the hard times, what's another obstacle? What's another obstacle? It's just something else to overcome. That's they say. Even fighters through boxing, it taught me so much. That sport, boxing and fighting. That's how you live life. Life is a fight. You're gonna take some licks. You're gonna take some good punches. You may even get knocked down, but you better get back up and give it everything you got. Because by getting up that 3rd time, that 4th time, it may be where you seize victory. It may be where you get the knockout. And how you train, what you do on the day-to-day leading up to the fight is going to determine whether you won or whether you lost. So it's really comes down to discipline. When you're doing those hard things, and I remember saying, even when I was boxing, and then, you know, come time for me to approach a female, you know, or a fine-looking girl at the club. What am I scared of? I was just whooping ass the other day. What I gotta be afraid of this obstacle for?
And you're 6'3", built like a statuesque cat, man. I mean,
what? So by me overcoming these obstacles, what's another obstacle? So when somebody's doing those things, when it comes down to depression, if they're disciplined in one avenue, they'll be disciplined and they'll see their depression. They may recognize it, but they'll be willing to overcome the obstacle. But like you said, obesity and depression, they go hand in hand. Those people couldn't overcome the obstacle of their physical fitness.
Right.
So now how can they overcome this obstacle of depression?
Yeah, well, this brings up a key thing in like what Phil said. Bless up to Phil, bless up to you, brother Phil. It's like that hermetic principle, as above, so below. How we do one thing is how we do everything. And it's very important to recognize, like, as we're talking about these conditions, this discipline, I think from a science level, and I'm about to get on my Joe Dispenza thing. Brian, thanks you for becoming supernatural. It's important to recognize that as we continue to do one thing, we create these neural pathways in all things, right? It's like this ingraining of how we do things. So what I'm hearing and what you guys are saying, and I'm all in agreement with, is that if we can consistently start practicing and getting our pathways aligned to forging through challenges, whatever challenge in whatever aspect of life, our consistency, our mindset is forged in this, or is patterned to addressing the challenges. So I'm curious for you guys, and and this is in alignment with the spirit. Now I want to transition to that, because I'm thinking that if someone is disciplined, right, and used to doing the difficult things or moving through the challenging things, do they experience depression and anxiety?
I would say yeah. I would say yes. How they respond to it makes all the difference. Everybody gets anxious. Everybody gets anxious. Everybody's subject to anxiety. But how you have somebody who gets anxious, and that'll actually fuel them to do better. They're actually going to buckle down. You have somebody who's depressed, and they may actually seek out their outlet even more. Now I'm depressed, or, you know, like they say, some of the best bodybuilders went through heartbreak first. So now, because I went through this heartbreak, I'm going to take it all out in the gym. And I'm going to lift and squat like I've never done before, just to combat this depression that I've been going through. But somebody who doesn't have that outlet, they're kind of stuck.
Yeah, man.
So I think if they do go through it, you know, everybody's going to be subject to it. Everybody's subject to stress, anxiety. But do we have the tools to cope? Some people have healthy coping skills like exercising, like yoga. Some people have unhealthy coping skills like drinking and drugs and food. So
Yeah.
what have we equipped ourselves with? What tools have we given ourselves? Because it's inevitable, man. Anxious moments, anxiety, stress.
Yeah.
They're inevitable. They're inevitable points of life. Everybody may have a flat tire one day, but some people get a flat tire. They have a panic attack behind the wheel.
Yeah. Right. Like something's coming up. Something's definitely coming up. Yeah.
And they say depression is living in the past. Anxiety is living in the future.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna go there next. I want to go there because that's where I want to. Oh yeah. But before we dive into any add-ons to the wisdom of friends was just
yeah. Saying. I mean, I believe people go through anxiety and a little bit of depression. I think, and everyone has had that happen to them. I think early in your path, you don't know how to handle the stress as well, so you start second guessing yourself. We talked about this in the past, bro. Like, I believe like everyone on this planet is put here because they do something better than anyone else has ever done, is doing, and will ever do. You have a specific gift that no one else will ever possess or has ever possessed. And I think the problem is in our society where, especially parents, I think, where these kids, they're brought into this world supposed to be on a certain path, but we're programmed, or us as a civilization, we're programmed to do this linear education, or their parents want them to live a certain way, and they become happy when they get into the college or they get A's, but I think they're more happy for the parent, more happy. I think they're happy because they're appeasing the parent. Then when they go off into the real world and they're like, fuck, this sucks. Like this is what life is all about. Like, this is what I've been taught to do. And they don't live that purpose. And the reason I bring up knowing your purpose is like, listen, I mean, I love what I do, but I'm 45 now. I don't know what I want to do when I grow up still, but I know I'm on the right path because I'm happy and I'm at peace. But knowing your purpose, it's easier to get over anxiety. It's easier to get over depression. And like we talked about the things that kind of spark your fire. Like I love travel and I love being a good role model to, my wife and, my stepson now, and just being a family man. Like that's my purpose. So when something negative does happen, I don't fall into a anxiety. I mean, yeah, I get a little bit once in a while, but like I don't fall into like a funk. I get out of it very quickly because my purpose is fueling me. My purpose keeps pushing on a spiritual level. That makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, man. And it goes in alignment with the spirit aspect of this, the soul aspect.
Yes.
Because and coming back to some things that Francis that you said in the beginning was around that spiritual soul piece. And we've been talking and we've been building up to this when we talk chakras and things. And there's a piece, there's parts of us, or there's when it comes to that soul and like what can contribute to mental health concerns, is that if there's this stifling of spirit, if there's this stifling of soul, or some experience that's happened in a person's life, that, as Frank mentioned, now this depression is, I'm living in the past from this thing that happened like so many years ago. Like this is who I am. Like this is my life. Like people's whole life can be dictated by an experience that happened when they were 3 years old. And it can be something as harsh as sexual abuse, or something as harsh as like, yo, somebody stepped on my Jordans when I was 4. Like they disrespected me. Everybody, it could go a whole gambit. And depending on how that person perceived it, it's going to leave a mental stamp on them going forward, which impacts how they're addressing everything. So I'm curious, transition a little bit, like from the spiritual side, because B, you and I have gone and talked about psychedelics and spiritual versus religion and all that shit. Frank, you and I have talked about this mental health and like what could be at stake. Like schizophrenia could be cats that are living in multiple realms, right? So I'm curious, like, yo, for real, like, is shamanism?
No, I thought Francis, like, he was like, oh.
Yeah, yo, bro, like, yo, let's go there. Let's go there, bro. So I'm curious from you guys, what's that component like from a spiritual side and soul side? how does that contribute to mental health and people having mental health challenges, bro? What's your thoughts?
Go, Francis.
I'm gonna at least let's say mental health challenges. I'll say this to even just to start, just to open it up.
Mm-hmm.
Remember how we said doctors and their bedside manner. Brian,
Mm-hmm.
you were saying doctors, their bedside manner, and that bedside manner can influence in itself the healing process.
Yeah.
So now, if healing can be done through energy and frequency, if a doctor comes in with a particular energy and they're emitting a particular frequency, the patient has no option but to respond to that, whether it be positive or negative. And if this doctor comes in there cold and callous and looking at this individual as some kind of psych patient, they're like this, I see it all the time. They want to rush in and out of there. They want to get in there as quickly as possible and get out. How are you treating this person? Are you making them feel like anything more than just a psych patient?
Mm-hmm.
And when I go in there honestly. And the only reason I can say I can go in there that way is because I worked at the juvenile campus. So I remember when I first got at the campus, the juvenile campus, I walked in there, what the fuck? What the fuck is wrong with these kids?
Yeah.
What is wrong with these boys?
Yeah.
Ready to boom, all kinds of nonsense. It was a very physical job. But soon enough, open their chart. Look what they went through. Look at the cards that they were dealt. Mm-hmm. And how can you blame them? I don't know where I would be if I was dealt those cards. Mm-hmm. So that got me to understand that some of those kids in the juvenile campus, they grow up to be those very same psych patients in the hospital.
Yeah.
So when I walk into that psych unit, I see them as a bunch of people who probably went through some shit. These are people who probably went through it. So much so, like the same way you have somebody who's physically sick, these people are mentally sick. They went through so much mental anguish, mental pain, trauma, whatever it may be, that now they're here mentally sick and they need healing. And is a step to healing looking at them as a psych patient, or are you going to talk to them like somebody who's been through it? And I'm there to try to understand it. I'm there to try to get an understanding of what happened, to allow you to get an understanding of what happened. Because by recognizing it, that's where the healing starts. If they can say, damn, I didn't realize how much I was dwelling on how much my mom died. I didn't realize how much I was dwelling on, the fact that I'm in a fucked up relationship.
Yeah.
Or, I haven't seen my son in months or years. So many different circumstances for so many different people. But it starts with that energy. Just by me walking into the unit, introducing myself and seeing you as a human being, they're not even used to that. So many of them aren't used to that. They're used to bouncing around hospital to hospital, getting treated like this.
Yeah.
Now you finally come in one day and they feel something different.
So what's that?
That's where the healing starts.
Well, I want to acknowledge this piece that what I'm hearing you talk about is creating a container. What the heck is that, Paul? I'm glad you asked. A container is your safe space. You hear about this all the time in therapy. Like, this is a safe space, trust tree. What that is its embodiment of this is a secure space for you to be yourself. What I'm hearing you say is when you go into that space, you're like, yo, I'm who I am. Like, hey, man, who are you, man? What's your name, bro? What's your name, man? Oh, man, shoot. You like Snickers? Oh, shit, me too. Like, there's this commonality, this energy that you go in with that I think both of you do very well. I think all of us do well. And it's about because we care, we really want to get to know someone. And I think in that, we talked about this before. I think this was in the pregame. Sometimes people being able to sometimes giving people the space to be heard can support in moving that energy, that spirit, that trauma, that hurt self that they experience that's creating the mental challenges.
That's big.
Big. B, what is it for you, bro? Because I mean, like, especially because you and I have talked about some of the plant medicine journeys that we've been on. And I know for me, like, especially with that Bufo experience, man, that helped me out with a lot of my anger issues, anxiety.
You did it?
Yeah. Bufo. Yeah, it was on point.
Oh man.
Yeah, so I know it helped me with a lot of my my mental health blocks and challenges. So I'm curious for you, especially with your experiences, how do you see that spirit part relating to mental health?
How the psychedelics help me out? Is that what you're
Yeah,
asking?
it's like the spiritual psychedelic component of it. Like,
Yeah, we talked about it a couple of times on here, but like just the kind of cliff notes. When I did I've done DMT, I've done LSD, I've done ayahuasca, ayahuasca 5 times now. Trying to get my 6th one in this year.
okay, that's up.
Yeah, I don't know where yet, but I got to get it in. It was for me when I first did DMT. It was death. I definitely had a death of the ego. It brought up all my insecurities in me, all my root chakra issues, my sacral, my solar plexus, everything, and it just brought it right up to my face. And it was like the scariest thing I ever had, and it just all of a sudden diminished. And what came after that was just pure love, and that it was like almost like I just think I described it before. Like I think it was like a etch a sketch where everything was like everything was all over the place, and somebody just like shit, or just kind of shook it and went back to a clear slate. And that's how it was for me. And I'm a huge fan. I think if they made it mandatory that everybody, as long as you don't have like bipolar, I wouldn't do it, or schizophrenia. That's in my personal opinion. For also what I read, people like that should not do it, or it should at least be controlled very carefully. I think if everybody was mandated or forced to do DMT and have an ayahuasca journey at least once or twice a year,
yeah,
man, we wouldn't have any wars. We wouldn't have, everyone would just get along. There'd be no such thing as racism. There'd be no such thing as, people killing each other, because you have nothing but love there, man. You have nothing but love.
Huh? Didn't natives use that as like a rite of passage when
yes.
people became of age? Like, let's say when they start to get into like manhood or adulthood, they use that as like.
Yeah. Because you realize everybody is connected. We are all one. We are all one. Absolutely, and it's like after, and it's like after we pass on from this plane, we're all going to meet up together. We're going to be out of our bodies, and this is just a skin suit we're wearing for 100 years or whatever, if you're lucky to live that long. And after that, we all go back to the same origin. We're all soul. Soul doesn't have a color. Soul doesn't have a ethnicity or whatever. It just we're all the same. We're all the same. And it just, and when you know your origin is just pure love.
Yeah.
I would argue that it's impossible to have. I don't want to say I'm not a doctor, but it's impossible to have mental health. It's impossible.
Yes. Man, brother, I'm agreeing with you on this, and to build on your wisdom. This is one of the things that attracted me to shamanism, because shamanism viewed people with schizophrenia or quote unquote what they would say mental health issues right now, like bipolar disorder or depression or anxiety. The shaman traditions would look at it like there's a disease, there's a sickness, there's like an entity, there's something that gets you like a poison, like a block. So a lot of these drum journeys and these plant medicine journeys, which is like when I first started really diving into it, and they talked about the levels of plant medicine, what they used them for. Like they used them to be able to go into these realms to support, and what they would do something called a soul retrieval. So it was an opportunity to go back to a scenario through a drum journey, bring that soul back in with the soul that's there already and integrate. So now there's no more illness. There's no more mental block, spiritual block. And I think it's so important because most of the time, in I'm speaking from my times when I've had this anxiety and panic attacks or depression or experienced depression, there was this point of me that thought I was the only one that knew what this was. And in alignment with what you're saying, Brian, I think that's what's so powerful. And you're seeing more of this in these studies with psilocybin, microdosing of LSD and DMT with veterans and people in depressed states. There's an opportunity to, for lack of a better term, course correct what has been causing these depressive or these different mental states. I think it's very important for us to begin to acknowledge that part of spirit that is damaged, that contributes to the mental health illness challenges. Frank, you said it before, man. I also wanted to ask you, like, you went to, when you were working at the youth facility, bro, you were seeing it in the early term, like the road to recovery was 12 to 19 plus more. That's such a pivotal stage in a young man and woman's development. When there's damage or trauma, man, that junk will jam them up where they think that they're separate, but like these plant medicines and connecting the spirit, true spirit, lets them know they're part of one, bro.
Oh, ooh, you just got me into something talking about the juveniles.
Tell me, what's up?
There's something called, and that goes to show the power of words, that the power words have on the mind, something called medical hexing. Across this, where let's say a doctor will look at a patient, even whether it's a diagnosis, even whether it's, you know, let's say patient's terminally ill and the doctor says, oh, you got about 3 weeks left to live. They say those words. They've done autopsies on people who, when the autopsy was actually done, they weren't in the condition to pass within 3 weeks. But the words of the doctor, by giving that much power to what this doctor had to say, you manifested it within your own physical body.
Yes.
That's why I was never too much of a fan of everybody throwing around this ADHD diagnosis. Oh, you got ADHD. Yo, you got ADHD. And they were telling that to these kids just so that they were quick to put them on medication. When you tell a child that at such a young age, they hear it, and now their body, their mind will begin to manifest that. I can't focus. I got ADHD. I can't do this. I got ADHD. You're probably just hyper. Go play sports. Go box. Go play football, basketball, tennis. Go do something. You may just be hyper. Get active. But they're quick to throw a diagnosis out there to fuel the pharmaceutical industry and get some money off some medication. But those words are important. So now, not only the words from a doctor, the words from a loved one, you got people who are scarred from what their parents may have told them. Parents said something, man, good for nothing, you ain't gonna grow up to be nothing. Oof. Now this kid takes that, he manifests that mentally. So they say words are powerful. They say words are magic. They can cast spells, they can heal, and they can destroy. The power of the tongue, the power of words, that's big in mental health, man. Big in mental health.
Symbols and spells, son. Symbols and spells.
Spells, man. You know it, Paul. You know it too, Brian.
Listen, we went somewhere today. All right. You know, and I appreciate you, man, being willing to dive into this, because I think this may be just the beginning of the conversation. Because and I'm curious, when people that are watching, thank you for watching and giving us your attention. I'm curious to know what's your thoughts about the discussion that we had today. Where do you sense that mental illness could be impacted positively the most? Is it through the mind? Is it through the body? Is it through your spirit? Is it the collection? Is it for D? All of the above. So the mind is a powerful place because the stories are generated there, and sometimes we are the stories that we tell ourselves all day long. So with this content that we have today, actually, before I even get into the closing, guys, what we covered today with mental health challenges and illnesses, if there's one thing that you wanted someone to take away from today, what is that one thing? It could be something that we said already or something that you had yet to say. Like, what is that for you? And Frank, since you're the guest, I'm going to have it start with you, and then Brian, then I'll go, and then we'll wrap up.
If I would tell anybody, if I can have anybody take away anything, the ball's always in your court. You're never in a position where you must fall victim to your circumstances. Any circumstance can be overcome. So you have to make up your mind. There's a quote here. I don't know from who, but there is a quote. It says, whether you believe you can or you can't, you're right. So what do you believe? Regardless the circumstance, regardless the trial or tribulation, the ball's in your court. to make it or to struggle. So if anybody takes away anything, balls in your court. You always, you go as far as you believe you can. Brian, your turn.
Thank you, bro.
Man, it's like I don't even know where to begin, man. Like, there's so many things you could talk about.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go back to find your purpose, man. And it's like it's a everyone talks about find your purpose, but do things that are going to make you happy. Start with that. Set little goals up for yourself, which when you accomplish, it'll give you a lot of confidence. So start little goals, try to get these goals, but do these goals according to what makes you happy. Listen, you're going to have stress. You're going to have a little anxiety. You might have little bouts of depression with whatever you do. So might as well do something that you enjoy in life.
Sure.
And, that's that's it,
Blessings.
Sure,
Blessings, man. Blessings. Thank you for that. My tip, my thing to take away is that your mental, like anything relating to your mind, it can be your heaven or your hell. Which one do you choose? Which one do you choose? And with that, thank you, Francis St. Fleur. Bless up to you, bro. Thank you for joining us. This is the first time I have a sense this will not be the last.
I don't think so either, man. You guys let me know. I'm always up for it.
Let's go.
Oh, man.
Love the wisdom, man. Appreciate it.
Nah, appreciate you guys. I appreciate y'all.
Nice.
Brian, till next time, man.
Yo, love it. Everybody, thank you. Bless up. Until next time. Peace. Yeah, buddy.